welcome to Mental Health Monday. So this week we're going to speak about depression, sort of the basic things running about depression. I have my notes, my crypt notes on my lap, so please just excuse me if I look down once or twice. It is a lot of information. I can't remember everything off the bat of my head, and there's things that I wanted to specifically remember to say. So first of all, we're going to talk about what is depression. So depression is a common yet serious mental illness that affects around about 1 to 6 people in their lifetime, and that's only the cases that we know about. A lot of times cases got unrecorded with depression because people don't want to talk about it. Okay, so depression affects not only the way we think, but it affects the way we feel, the way we act, the way our body feels, because it can actually manifest in physical symptoms as well. So depression is quite a broad thing. And then depression is different from the normal feelings of sadness that we get. So whenever we go through quite a tough time in our lives, so in big changes, through the death of someone we care about, go through a breakup, go through a difficult test, anything like that, we can sometimes feel sad, and that's normal. But during grief, for example, your feelings of sadness will come and go. So you'll feel sad, you'll remember the person that died, for example, and you'll be really sad, but it'll go away. With depression, it doesn't go away. That feeling of sadness is just constant, and a lot of times the feeling's unexplained. So for example, when someone dies, okay, this person died, I'm sad because of that death. With depression, you're just sad. There's nothing, you can't verbalize why you're feeling sad. Then during grief, our self-esteem is fine. Generally, you feel fine. You don't physically feel as if there's something wrong with you. With depression, our self-esteem is more often than not, your self-esteem is quite low. And then you can also feel worthless when you feel depressed, which you don't experience when you have grief. But we must also remember that long periods of grief or extreme grief can actually cause depression. So you can become depressed as a result of that. But that is why with depression, it's only diagnosed after about 2 weeks of that feeling, because with grief, obviously it gets better over time. So the causes of depression, they're still studying on them, obviously, because there is no one cause, but they believe that there are quite a few causes that interact with each other to determine whether or not a person will get depression or whether or not you have depression. So the first one, like with most diseases and that kind of thing, is genetics. So do your parents have depression? Do your siblings have depression? So close family members, then you are more likely to develop depression. That doesn't mean if your mom has depression, you will get it. It just means you unfortunately do have an increased risk. Then biological. So obviously depression is determined by the chemicals in the amounts of these chemicals in our brain, so serotonin, dopamine, that kind of thing. So if you have too little of certain chemicals, too many of certain chemicals, then it can cause depression. Psychological, so things like how we handle stress. Are we optimists or pessimists? So do we see the world in a negative way? How do we feel about ourselves? How is our self-esteem? That kind of thing can also actually cause depression, because if you go through a stressful situation and you're an optimist, you go through the situation and you go, oh wow, everything's going to be okay. If you go through it as a pessimist and the glass is always half empty, then everything becomes quite negative. And then environmental, so people we associate can actually affect our depression. If you associate with people that are always breaking you down, you tend to be at more risk to develop depression. If you come out of a family where you're abused or of extremely poor family structure, if you have been a victim of trauma or assault or rape, something like that, that can also actually cause depression. And then there's other factors like drug and alcohol use. So excessive drinking, use of drugs can cause depression or worsen depression. Things like, I lost my place, sorry. Things like overworking, lack of exercise, lack of sleep. Sleep is a major determiner of our emotional well-being. And then pregnancy. So we know about postpartum depression. So pregnancy is obviously also a factor in that. No? And then depression is something that happens to 1 in 3 women in their lifetime. So they have seen that women are more prone to getting depression, unfortunately. Sucks for us, sorry. And then the symptoms is the next thing we're going to talk about. So a lot of us hear about a lot of the symptoms, so I'm just going to talk about a few of them. But there's a quote that I found, so I'm going to read it word for word, but that really nicely summarizes for me kind of what depression symptoms mean. So it says, having depression is like being scared and tired at the same time. It's a fear of failure but no urge to be productive. It's wanting friends but hating to socialize. It's wanting to be alone but not wanting to be lonely. It's feeling everything at once and then feeling paralyzingly numb. So that I thought was a quote that is quite a nice way to sum it up. So It's things like feeling sad or empty, and it's usually with myself, I know as well, there's no reason, nothing happened that you go, oh, I had a really terrible day, that's why I feel sad. You just feel sad. Then you have a loss of interest in things that you used to enjoy. So if you're someone that plays tennis and suddenly you wake up every day and you're like, I really just don't want to do this anymore. Or work, I love my work, but sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, I just don't feel like doing that today. That's one of the symptoms. An increase or decrease in your appetite. So I, for example, stop eating. Like, I stop eating. Other people I know will eat a lot. So in general, then as well associated with that, you'll either gain or lose weight without trying. It just happens because you're eating more or less. Then changes in your sleep pattern. So you'll either sleep too little or too much. Me, again, when I'm in a dip, I'll sleep like 22 hours a day, like quite a lot. You have lack of energy. So you sleep, again, it's with sleep. You have lack of, but even with lack of energy, like at work, I'll sit and I'll just like, so you'll be quite tired all of the time. You'll feel worthless, hopeless, or guilt. Like, you'll feel like you're just not like worth anything. You're guilty just about everything, like for no apparent reason. You'll have difficulty concentrating. So during exam times, I would suffer when I was in a dip. Like, you cannot concentrate on one thing. It's absolutely terrible. Suicidal thoughts, and a lot of people think that's just a thing of you start planning your suicide. You're going, okay, I'm going to slit my wrist today. It's not. It's also to do with, for me, for example, when I was driving, honestly, just for a second a thought would cross my head and I would be like, I wonder what would happen if I drove into that tree right now, that kind of thing. So it's not just necessarily you are planning something, it's just that thought that pops into your head for a second. That is also a suicidal thought. Okay. Then irritability or easily frustrated. So my husband can agree with this one. I get it doesn't matter what, I just get set off from everything, and once I'm in that mood, every little thing will just irritate me. And then anxiousness, so you feel that in your gut, like that anxiety. And then reckless behavior is one that luckily I haven't had yet, but I do know a few people that have. So substance abuse, so when you're in that dip, you'll drink a lot more than you usually do. You'll drive extremely fast, like you'll drive 180 and you won't think twice about it, and you'll do things that you know you won't generally do. And then also something that, again, people don't really know about is unexplained physical symptoms. So you'll have things like headaches, back pain, neck pain, like those kinds of things manifest. So our emotional state can manifest into ways that we feel physically. Okay, so the thing, like I said earlier in the video, symptoms with depression need to last for 2 or more weeks. The reason just for that is because there's a lot of things that can cause a lot of the symptoms that we get from depression without actually being depression. So having thyroid problems, so an under or overactive thyroid, having vitamin deficiencies like vitamin B affects our mental state, tumors, obviously the worst case scenario. So doctors first always want to check, is it as a result of something physical? Are you just tired, or is it depression? So I know lately, and this is not me bagging on anyone, but lately a lot of times when you have one or two or three of the symptoms, doctors tend to very easily give us meds then, because I mean, they're taught that this is how we classify depression, and that's not wrong. But how we're supposed to do is we have to check the symptoms for 2 weeks, and if they continue and other things have been tried and it doesn't get resolved, then usually that is one of the signs of depression, or it probably is depression most likely then. So those are my first basic, like I said, it's quite basic information. It is stuff that you can Google, but I always feel like listening to videos, like when I was studying, it was just also a lot more helpful for me to actually retain. So next week we're going to talk about symptoms in someone else, or to try and spot if you can notice if someone around you maybe has it and you're concerned about that. And then also kind of the medical things to look at. I'm going to combine depression and bipolar's dietary interventions, because I'm a dietitian, so that is kind of more the things I lean towards, and so I'll do those at the end of everything. And then just a reminder that if you feel any of these and you're worried about yourself, please always go and see a doctor or physician to make sure and check into yourself. There's never anything wrong with looking for help. So I'm also going to attach a link for helplines if you are like in an emergency or in trouble and you really feel like you need to talk to someone. So yeah, that is my video. I really hope you gained something at least out of it, and please leave comments, leave questions, tell me your story. I really want us to be able to interact. So yes, I will see you guys next week. Thanks so much, guys.